Guten Tag and hello there. Konnichiwa and konbanwa. Guten Abend and good evening. And a happy Easter to all. Yes, it is April the 1st, also April Fool's Day. And in that case, maybe it's not really Easter at all, and the calendar is playing a prank on you. In any case, welcome to another episode of An Hour with Domino. How are all of you? I hope you're all doing well. I'm pleased that some of you actually liked the first episode to this. It was fun the first time around. I hope it will be the second time around, too. Few things to talk about on the show today. I actually have a special request, and we're going to get to that in the Pokemon segment. A special request from a dear friend of mine. So I'm dedicating that time. And in fact, I want to make a point to say that when we get to the Pokemon segment, that is what that's going to be dedicated to. Every time we do that part of the show, we're going to have the anime talk actually later on in the show, during the time whenever I would have a special guest usually be on. When they're not on, that's when we'll do an anime talk. And when I do have a guest come on, then that time will be reserved for them to talk about whatever they want to. So that's one way to fill that kind of time slot for now until I add a few more things to the little show here. In any case, I hope you all are enjoying. You know, there's something I'd like to share with all of you. Now, I know I don't know how many of you are peanut butter lovers like I am, and this might just gross you out, but I've discovered that I love potato chips and peanut butter. I tried it one night and enjoyed it immensely. Right now, many of you are telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about, and it sounds disgusting, and to each their own. I'm a very bizarre life form, and if you haven't noticed by now, and my love for peanut buttery goodness runs deep, I don't really always function normally with human food. And for those who are daring with their treats and want to try this, I suggest crinkle cut chips. They seem to work best for the slow scooping, you know, and use creamy peanut butter. If you're a fascinating fellow who is capable of scooping crunchy peanut butter without breaking chips, then you're a talented individual, and I applaud you. Alright, moving on. um, Another thing I do want to get into the show today later on is actually talking about some of my own writing. I want to make it a point to actually do that. I mentioned it toward the end of the last show, and I definitely want to do that. I may read a little bit more poetry during the World of Creation moment, but we'll see. We'll see what we got time for today. Alright, how about we move on to the first segment, the Pokemon segment. Now, Pokemon is by far not without its share of media and, being one of the most popular things out of Japan, also one of their more expensive and brings them a lot of money. Pokemon is extremely famous, and with good reason. It's amazing. It's completely original, and has changed people's lives forever. It has an immense following, and I doubt it's truly ever going to die. It will always be around in some form. Even when their original fans grow old and die, they'll still be the younger fans. My friend wanted me to talk about something interesting that has actually made its way into the media with Pokemon, and has had a lot of conspiracy. And no, I'm not talking about Jinx. That was just massively stupid. Um, if anyone doesn't know what happened with Jinx, America had a problem with Jinx, and there were some people in America that did not like Jinx's appearance, and Pokemon really was not going to back down from their own creation. The only thing that did change was just the color of Jinx's skin. It was in no way supposed to be a racial problem, but they wanted to make it that way, apparently. But today's focus is going to be on the conspiracies and the unusual creepiness of Lavender Town. For those who don't know, Lavender Town is a small town that is situated in the Kanto region, which for most people is the first region you experience in the Pokemon world. It's also where the story all began. Lavender Town does not feature a gym. It is a town that's actually based off a real town in Japan that um, has a large cemetery to it, and you go there to mourn the death of those you once knew or loved ones. I believe even your pets too. It's a mountain town in Japan. And in the game, Lavender Town is situated near a small mountain, just like in real life. Um, I'll have to look up the actual town it's supposed to be based off of. I did look it up once, but the name is escaping me at the moment. Lavender Town is pretty much a town in the game that is based around death. Now, sorry, that's not necessarily a negative thing. You see, in Japan, they're not afraid to talk about death, and death is a very different concept to them than what Westerners like to try to make it all about. In the Western civilization, whether or not they want to admit it, they like to try to sensitize their children to death. Like, they're not allowed to know too much about it because they think they can't handle it. Well, in Japan, children learn about death in a very natural way and at a young age, too. So they grow up understanding it rather than fearing it all the time. And I think that's rather brilliant. We need to teach our children about death rather than keeping them away from it and acting like it's something that they're going to constantly think about or be afraid of. Otherwise, it causes these little problems. There was a conspiracy that the music that plays in the background of Lavender Town was causing people to kill themselves. Now, for a moment you think, yes, this sounds completely outlandish and stupid. And Lavender Town features a very creepy song to it, and it's also a town that is filled with ghost Pokemon. Now, you know how much I love those. And Lavender Town is actually my favorite town in Kanto. I love the mystery to it. And it's a quaint little town. And in the town there is a tall tower. It's called Pokemon Tower. And you ascend the tower and you battle Team Rocket. And you also battle ghosts and other trainers that are seeming to be possessed. Once you reach the top, you usually have to defeat an enemy, and the tower is, I think, also based off a real tower in the town that Lavender Town's based off of. But in the tower, there are many gravestones of Pokemon that have died. And so, yes, it is a real thing that Pokemon do die. They just live for a very long time. But there's also according to the Pokemon manga and the original stories, the possibility that Team Rocket has actually killed Pokemon. Now, I'm not talking about the Team Rocket trio, I'm talking about the organization. The Team Rocket trio, Jesse, James, and Meowth, work for the company of Team Rocket. It's an organization, it's not just those three. And that's another thing that people really always confuse. But, upon the release of Pokemon back in 1996, the games, Pokemon Red and Green, February 27th, 1996, there was a peak of suicides and illness among children between the ages of 7 and 12. And it was shortly after the release of the games, and a lot of people were thinking that it was the music in Lavender Town because of its binaural beats. It was somehow causing their brains to feel depressive and want to die. And this has been proven wrong. Although the deaths had happened, it was for various other reasons. There is no proof that the Pokemon game had caused this. I'm sure a lot of people have probably thought about this or even looked into this, especially hardcore Pokemon fans. They probably know some of this story and more other creepy things about Lavender Town, and Creepypasta has made up several stories just to entertain the whole thing. And when you have something as big as Pokemon, things like this are gonna come out because people are gonna try to say that there's things wrong with Pokemon. Anything that is massively positive or gains a huge following, there's gonna be people that are gonna make up things about it. Yeah, it's almost inevitable. It's we wish it wouldn't happen, but it happens regardless. And Pokemon Company has been going strong, and they know how to deal with this kind of thing. They know how to deal with those people. And it became known as the Lavender Town Syndrome. They even thought up a syndrome for it, a name. There's a lot of other various little myths that surround the whole town of Lavender Town. My friend had actually heard that in the original game, you were meant to die, like your player character was meant to die after visiting the Pokemon Tower. And whether or not this was originally intended, obviously it doesn't happen. I did do a little bit of research on this, and I didn't find very much evidence to it to suggest that that's what the game had originally intended. And nor has anyone ever been able to prove it. One moment here, I'm actually reading something. Okay, I was looking at this one article about Lavender Town, and it was saying the idea that Pokemon media could somehow physically harm children is not completely outlandish, is what it's trying to say. In fact, such a thing did happen, but it wasn't nefarious, devilish plot. It was the case, rather back in 1997, a certain episode of Pokemon anime had a scene that reportedly triggered seizures in hundreds of children, causing some of them to vomit and lose consciousness. This article that I'm looking at, I actually know about this incident. The reason that had happened is because they're talking about the episode that was banned and had to be re-edited with its lighting. You can watch it now if you want. But it was the episode where they were supposed to feature a Pokemon called Porygon. And the scene apparently had combined almost simultaneously two techniques that were frequently used in cartoons and anime. Yes, cartoons and anime are two different things. Yes, they are. They are not the same thing. The first, called Paka Paka in Japanese, uses different colored lights flashing alternatively to cause a sense of tension. The second is called Flash, emits a strong beam of light. It was a cinematic scene that apparently set off convulsions, and the light emitted frequencies between 10 Hz and 30 Hz. A unit of frequencies, meaning cycles per second, can induce seizures, and that the color red is also stimulative. That actually did happen, but the reason I bring up that situation is because with the creepiness about the suicides and the possible Lavender Town theme song causing it, people were trying to combine those two things together because they were trying to take one thing that actually did happen and combine it with another thing that happened and trying to still, blame Pokemon for this. when they released that episode, they really didn't know that that was going to happen, and that's why they re-edited it. I do believe that even in the later games, the Lavender Town theme had been slightly changed, and it wasn't because they were afraid of the suicides, but because the media just would not leave it alone. And that's honestly very childish. People have to go that far until a song in a video game is changed. And in fact, I don't know if you have noticed, but I will have been playing the Lavender Town theme through this whole discussion. The little music you heard in the background is part of the Lavender Town theme. But I'm about to end it now. I hope you all were finding that interesting. Maybe there was some things about it that you really just didn't know. People all love an urban legend. People all love a ghost story. People all love something to be wrong with something. They find it fascinating. Humankind, in human nature, loves to be weary and explore things they don't understand. And the Japanese love the paranormal. It is featured in all of their media, all of their great works, and they understand that death is just another stage that comes along. Now, I'm not going to get too much into that because everyone has their own beliefs, and to each their own, and that's completely fine. We are now approaching nearly 20 minutes in the show. We're going to go on our first break, and I will see you after the music. Welcome to Domino Radio yet again.
Dream when you're feeling blue. Dream, that's the thing to do. Just watch the smoke rings rise in the air. You'll find your share of memories there. So dream when the day is through. Dream and they might come true. Things never are as bad as they seem. So dream, dream, dream. Things never are as bad as they seem. So dream, dream, dream.
Welcome back to An Hour with Domino. The song you just heard was known as Dream by the Four Aces. I hope you all are ready to go into the next segment, which will be fun facts. Now, I know people enjoy that. Everybody enjoys fun little facts, don't they? Well, we're going to touch a fun fact that not too many of you truly enjoy. In fact, it's probably going to scare you a little bit, but it's the world. Who knows what the most poisonous spider in the world is? Do you know, truly? The most poisonous spider is often a topic of debate because a lot of people think it's the brown recluse, it's the black widow, it's the daddy longlegs. Well, actually, the daddy longlegs has been proven to not be the poisonous spider in the world. In fact, there are two different species of those in particular. One of them is not even an arachnid. They feed on dead vegetables and compost. The other one, uh, the ones that do have fangs, they are harvesters actually, and they only feed off of dead things, I believe. Um, I do remember hearing about that when I was in school. Um, the Black Widow is very dangerous, uh, and it can kill you if it goes untreated, but it's easily treatable. And the same goes with the brown recluse. Brown recluse is deadly because it has killed people before, only a small amount, because it can be treatable too. And they're creepy because they love to hide in things. They love cardboard boxes, they love clothing, they love to hide in closets, under beds, any place where it's dark. They are truly emo little spiders. But the most poisonous spider in the world is actually known as the Sydney funnelweb spider. And they live in the Sydney, Australia region, mostly New South Wales. And can be found all around there. Another one is the Brazilian wandering spider, and the other wandering spider in Australia. They're pretty dangerous. They will actually follow you and purposely attack you, I've heard. And I've read a little bit of stories on that too. Rather horrifying. But we're going to talk about the Sydney funnelweb spider. Its venom is so potent it can kill in just 15 minutes. And this is mostly from the male, which is the most unusual part because while females are normally the fiercer sex among spiders, it's just the males who possess this wickedly deadly venom. Male funnel web spiders only grow to be a couple inches across, but they can build their namesake funnel webs up to 2 feet underground by digging a hole and then lining it with sticky silk. Then they can trap wandering prey and ambush it with great effect, all while having a sturdy underground fortress layered with web to retreat into. They are very intelligent. The venom. These spiders deliver venom with their large fangs, capable of piercing, fingernails and shoe leather. Holy shite. A bite first causes extreme pain at the site of the injection. Within minutes of the neurotoxic effects begin to appear. Symptoms include vomiting, profuse sweating, drooling, crying, muscle spasms, and an accelerated heart rate with a low blood pressure. Though only 10% of people who experience this fall unconscious or into a coma, this outmatches nearly all other spiders in the world. Bites by the Sydney funnelweb spider are considered life-threatening due to the speed at which the venom works. Doctors tell patients to capture and bring the spider with them to the emergency room if possible. You know, I love when they say that, because when you get bit by a spider, your first instinct is to just squash it. Or any spider for that matter. Who's gonna be like, oh, you bit me. I'm gonna capture you. Come along now. We're gonna go to the hospital together while I get treated. And how are they gonna deal with a live spider? Now, I know that they ask you to do this because they need to be absolutely sure that they're gonna give you the right antivenom. Because if they're not sure, they could give you an antivenom that could possibly harm you. um, I believe antivenom, what it is, it's a type of other venom that's going to counteract the one that's already in your body. So essentially, yeah, they're putting more into you, but it works as a healant. um, the intention. It may not surprise you, but to find the world's most toxic spider, you have to go to Australia. As we mentioned, it's found in Sydney area, particularly its largest city. Curiously, it seems as though this deadly spider specifically chose the densest human population center in the entire continent to use as its sole habitat. The funnel web spider only lives about 60-mile radius around the city, not in the remote outback of Australia. You know why? It's probably due to the fact that there are a larger population of everything there. When you're in the outback, there isn't very much out there. And that goes with animal population too. I'm sure there's insect population out there, but even more of those would be toward the city and where all the trees and foliage are because that's what they cultivate. And it makes sense. Insects live where people are too, especially scavenger insects like roaches and such. They follow humans. So that actually makes a lot of sense that these spiders would be making their habitats near where people are. But I just thought that that would be a little bit of fun fact information. Now you all know what the most poisonous spider in the world is. And they are ugly freaking little suckers. To anybody who loves arachnids, have at it. I'm sure you think they're beautiful. I, however, do not. I do not like spiders at all. I do not like them, Sam I am. Alright, we're going to move on to our next topic of fun facts. This one particularly I do love. I've always been interested in horology. I love clocks, I love time. I'm a clock collector myself. I have well over 40 of them. And to a lot of you, I know that's insane, but I love them. The ticking relaxes me. It drives everybody else crazy, but not me. I'm so glad that my boyfriend appreciates it. My goal is to have at least 12 chiming grandfather clocks one day. All key wound. I prefer key wound movement as opposed to battery operated. Batteries just don't last very long, and then you have the problem of them breaking open and damaging the motor. And then you have to fix that, and it just causes problems for everybody. The largest clock in the world used to be the clock tower known as Elizabeth Tower, affectionately called Big Ben, in London, England. Falsely called Big Ben, too. Big Ben is the name of the bell, not the tower. It was named Elizabeth Tower after Queen Elizabeth. I think that was fairly recently, like some years ago. Some few years ago. But the tallest clock in the world. Now, it's located in Saudi Arabia, and I'm going to pronounce it by its official name, but it's also known as the Mecca Royal Clock Tower. It's located in Mecca, Saudi Arabia, and its official name is Abraj Al Bait. Now, do forgive me, any of you who are Saudi Arabian, and if I've mispronounced it. I'm usually pretty good about pronouncing foreign names and words. I actually make it a point to try to say them correctly, mostly out of respect, but I'm a lover of words and names. I'm a writer. I use them in my profession, and I like to get them correct. So I really hope I pronounced Abraj al Bait correctly. This complex is a hotel. Saudi Arabia's largest construction firm built it, and they wanted it to be the center of time. Literally. The clock tower is so large that it took them a few years to actually build the faces of the clock itself. The building, the main tower that has the clock on it, stands at 1,972 feet. It's also the tallest building in Saudi Arabia, and for a short time was second in height only to Burj Khalifa in Dubai, which we talked about in our last episode. Still the tallest clock tower in the world now. Uh, the lighting is absolutely impressive on it. I love the green neon lighting. Um, Regardless of the intentions of building this huge hotel in the clock tower, I'm giving my respect to it because of my love of timepieces. I don't really care if it is kind of a waste of space or if it is a waste of resources. It's their country. They can build what they want. Who really gives a shite, honestly? The fact that we built this large clock is impressive to me, and I wanted to share that. I read that they built the clock because, and they have this huge square out in front of the hotel itself during their prayer hours, and they can go and they can look up into the clock and they can pray to their deities during their prayer hours. And that in itself is also respectable. I Religions are kind of interesting to me. I don't practice any of them, but they're interesting. And this clock tower is just gorgeous. I mean, I love the way it's designed. I love the spire on it. It looks like it has a large half moon on the top, although I know that's not what it is. I just think it's beautiful. It's sad that they built it out in the middle of a desert city. I mean, geographically, according to our environment out there and the desert storms, they're gonna have to really reinforce it and fortify it and make sure that all of that dust and rock and doesn't destroy it over time. I'm sure they have taken that into consideration. I know that when this building was first being built, I was following it for a little while. They had some of the most accurate clockmakers in the world working on this project. They really wanted to make this something great, and I think they accomplished it. It looks pretty nice. I really do like it. Saudi Arabian architecture is kind of unique in itself. They use a lot of domes and marble and solid pieces, and to have something like this stand out in their country is truly unique. Um, a lot of people reacted negatively to it, saying that it was a large monstrosity. It wasn't something that we needed. But it's not for everyone else, you know? It was for them. So, yeah. It's certainly probably not the most famous clock in the world. It's up there. Some other very important clock towers include Philadelphia City Hall, which I really love that one too. I have yet to see it. I've been around Philadelphia before. I rode past it on my way to Delaware when I was on a trip with my parents a long time ago. It was before they were divorced. But we were going to a race car track in Delaware, Dover actually, which I actually fell asleep at. um, I don't know why. I was sitting in the bleachers of the race car track, and I actually remember falling asleep. I was probably about 10 years old or so. I'm not sure the exact age I was. And I think it was just a combination of the wind put me to sleep. It was the only race car track I ever went to. It's kind of getting a little off topic, I know. But I thought this would be a little bit something interesting to talk about. The world's largest clock tower. And now you all know. Maybe someday I'll see it in person, maybe I won't. I really actually have no desire to go to Saudi Arabia. But I can look at the pictures from afar. Maybe one day it'll be featured in a movie. Usually, structures like this are featured in disaster movies. Hollywood loves to figure out ways they can destroy things so creatively. I have literally seen the Eiffel Tower destroyed like 5 different ways. The same goes with the Golden Gate Bridge and the Empire State Building. The Statue of Liberty I've seen hit with a comet. I've seen it hit by 2 different tidal waves. I've seen it destroyed by an earthquake. Yeah. Although disaster movies are fun. I like those. Again, a little off topic, but you know what? It kind of fits. Alright, according to the time, we're moving on to our next break already. Wow, time's flying, isn't it? Alright. I'll send you all to Domino Radio now. And I'll be back in just a little bit. Enjoy.
Cherry, cherry pie, cherry, cherry pie, cherry, cherry pie. Oh, so good, whoa, whoa, sugar, sugar plum, sugar, sugar plum, sugar, sugar plum, sweet as they come, Little Jack Horner sat in the corner, eating his cherry pie. I didn't put in a thumb, I didn't pull out a plum. I guess I'm not as great as he. Whoa, whoa, give me, no, give me some. No, give me, no, give me some. No, give me, no, give me some. Cherry pie. Na, whoa, whoa, na, cherry pie, cherry pie, cherry pie.
Hello again, and welcome back to An Hour with Domino. The song you just heard was known as Cherry Pie by Skip and Flip. I actually featured that in a movie that I made with The Sims 2, actually. It was called Future Sight. I used to have it featured on my channel here, but I haven't for a little while. I might actually put it back up at some point. Some of my friends had liked it at one point and always wanted to make it into a full-length film. But yes, a lovely little song from 1959. Alright, and moving on. We're going to move on to the next segment known as the World of Creation, where we talk about poetry, books, and writing in many forms. Also, anything that has to do with any form of creation, really. Applaud the world for creativity. Without it, we're all lost. Truly. Applaud the power of creativity, for without it, the world is lost. I've often said that to many people. When you really think about it, if we didn't have our books, our songs, our shows, anything that entertains us, we would go insane. The world would fall apart. So next time somebody says that they're going to do something creative with their life, don't belittle them for it. It's a very brave thing to do. It's a very powerful thing to be creative. Think up something that no one else has. We're going to read some of my poetry. Just a few of them. And then we'll move on to talking about some books. I may do a movie recommendation during the show today. We'll have to see. Let's see what we got time for. We can run a little bit past an hour. After all, it is an hour with Domino. I don't mind it being just about maybe 5 or 10 minutes longer. We'll see. I know the first episode was technically 56 minutes or so long, but that was close enough to an hour. It truly was. Okay, let's get on to some of my poetry here. During the break, I went and got my poetry book. My friend, a friend of mine actually appreciated this part of my little show. She told me she always loved to hear me read off my own writing. Here's a little poem that I wrote. It's called Opposites. It is about the colors of black and white. And I love them both together. I think they are very artistic and they complement each other very well. This is in no way about people. It's just about the two colors perceiving each other and how they go together and how they don't, in a way. Alright. Black. I am the dark one, your spectre of the night. I dominate your colored power. I am the unknown, the silent one, the special one, the stalker, the shadow, the playful one, the sexy one, the trapper, the mystery, the exciting one, the evil one, the sorrow, the hatred. I am the powerful one. Your respect is given to me. I'll take away your breath of light. I am what you seek. White. I am the light one, your angel of the day. I soften your colored tones. I am the well-known, the gentle one, the glowing one, the chastity, the purity, the mature one, the innocent one, the helper, the serenity, the emotional one, the positive one, the happiness, the love. I am the genial one. Your emotions are sensitive to me. I'll shine your way on darkened path. I am your protection. Together we shall be, for our life is now in grays. No longer are we singled notions, and our power will be free. We captivate the world in unique and solid art. We impress the eyes around us for a show in absent hues. The domino of opposites as the colors need our lives, enticing views upon the spectrum as tints and shades Pacific days. Black says to white, we are opposites, yet I can't ignore you. You shed your light into my life. You're bright and carefree. You support. You are my balance. You waken my blackened nights, yet your touch is soft to me. You soften up my mind and grace. Your difference is exhilarating. You make me glow a luminous ray. You take away my ego. I want you with me. White says to black, we are opposites, yet I still love you. You bring excitement into my life. You're mysterious and quiet. You're my outline. You are my silhouette. You shadow in my warming gestures, yet you show me what I lack. You show me fun that I desire. Your difference is thrilling. You make me flow a personality. You give me what I need. I am devoted to you. Together we shall be, for our life is now in grays. No longer are we singled notions, and our power will be free. And that's the end of that. Pretty much, when I wrote that, it was how I would perceive the two colors of black and white, how they are on their own, and how they are when they find each other. Each color, as powerful and dominant as they are on their own, they need each other for support. And they support every other color in the world, too. You can't have all the other colors without the support of black and white, when you really think about it. It's like they're the building blocks of color, and yet they can be all of it at the same time. If you disagree, that's alright. It's just what I personally believe. Alright, here's another poem. I wrote this one some time ago, quite a long time ago. I came across it when I was turning through my book during the break. It's called The Ghost in the Unicorn. Why don't you see me? It's like I don't exist. I am drawn into your beauty, yet you see right through me. Someone once had told me, you're impossible to tame. I never once believed them. You've proven through a good name. I need to be your friend. I want to be your lover. I desire your attention, and you only want another. I am a ghost, you see. You never hear my calls. Where did I go wrong? I am invisible to thee. I will never capture you. I must accept this frozen state. You are shining unicorn. I am the ghost of lonesome fate. That's a little bit more of a sadder tone to it, but pretty much what it's about. It's desiring somebody that you know you're not really going to be with, and eventually you move past that. Maybe you don't. Hopefully you do. But I know that when I wrote this, that is very much how I was feeling. It felt like any guy that I was interested in was not interested in me at all. And there were very few. I really didn't find very many guys interesting in my life before I met Maya. And he's exactly what I need now. I'll never want anyone else. That's for sure. Oh, here's a poem that, okay. Maybe I'll do, should I do one more? Yeah, maybe I'll do one more. And then we'll move on to more talk of books and movies and such. This one, my boyfriend actually, Maya, said would make a good death metal song. I wrote it out of anger, but I did it creatively. Okay. It's called Puppet Talk. Your brain is swallowed in the dark. You have no heart to beat. Your body starts to overheat. You only fall apart. A gelid soul is made from lust. You flow pathetic notions. You drown in your own faded motions, a swagger burning into dust. You thought you could deceive me, make me dance along your arm. I made these words for you to see. Listen well, now I'm the harm. This language speech is puppet talk. It has enigmatic ways. I will cage you with a bolted lock. Cease all your petty stalker days. You think we're all the same, testing subjects for your game. I'll rip your heart out, kill your brain, burn your ego in the flame. Move about it, talk about it, break away your grinning face. Move about it, talk about it, unresistant slicing pace. These chilling cries are puppet calls, they glide into your ears. I'll bring upon your hidden fears no more satin puppet dolls. If you ever value life, you will stay away from me. A cheater's game is never glee. I have no mercy for your strife. One day in solitude you'll wake, your blackened soul within my chains. The breath of death will ache your veins, and no more puppets will you make. Yeah, that was a little bit more of the darker side of my mind, but I was very upset with somebody at the time. And you know what? Reading over it again, I agree with Maya. It does sound like it could be a death metal song or even just a metal song in general. Any musicians out there, if you do want to make it into a song, please credit me though first, and let me know. We'll see where it goes. Maybe even my Maya will make it into a song or something. He is a musician. Although I don't think that he wants to work on something so dark right now. And the tone of that, I am completely over it, and I look back on it now and I just see it as a creative outlet. The person I was upset with is no longer a part of my life. They were a part of my old life. I cashed them out. Oh, I like this one. Okay, one more poem, okay? One more. I like all my poems, but this one I got some praise over when I entered it into a poem contest once. I used to be part of a poetry website called All Poetry, but I removed my account there because they were requesting people to leave comments on poems in order to read, I mean, in order to post their own. And I felt that that was very unfair because people were just leaving like little useless comments. Like, I actually saw people type out the word comment on a poem just so they could quickly post their own. It was a very poor setup. And I left the website because of it. I wasn't going to have people leaving little useless comments on my work like that. Alright, this poem is called The Rose and Dandelion. I have seen you here before, says the weed onto the rose. Your beauty captures my attention. I can't help but follow you. I too have noticed you, the rose says, gazing toward the weed. I enjoy your company beside me. Such vibrant yellow makes me bloom. Tell me why, rose of timeless beauty, the weed said, tilting softly by his side. You say you want me here, yet I've only seen you cry. Yes, it's true, the rose said then, dropping petals to the ground. I cry because I love you, even knowing that I'll wilt. I want you here with me, the weed confessed in aging seeds. Although it pains me here to see you hurt, the others laugh as I watch you die. They say we cannot be together, said the dying faded rose. We're born too different, you and I, a rose and dandelion. The weed leaned up slow and quietly to say, maybe if we age together, they will notice there's no difference. We both grow in the same life, just as we bloom and die. The wilting rose said then, now lying on its back. They've warned us all weeds can kill me, and that you're never to be trusted. Though in life I've grown to love you, and now I'll die with you tonight. It's in everyone's intention to wonder our existence. We question why we live here, on this floating rock in empty space. Too many hate those who are different, instead of respecting what is the same. We let colors make dividers, creating judgments in our species. It's time we've stopped trying to be perfect, and love the weeds that grow among us. Whether rose or dandelion, we all will breathe the same. So yes, when I wrote that, it has kind of touches upon like undertones about the difficulties of race among today's world. But if anyone doesn't know, a dandelion weeds, they do kill all other plants. They absorb their energy and their existence. Weeds can pose a huge problem, but dandelions also, for a short time, make other flowers bloom until they take away their energy and kill them. And I don't know, I was just creative with that, kind of telling a story between the rose and the dandelion, falling in love with each other even though they were different, and the world telling them they were different, kind of like a Romeo and Juliet kind of tale. But I always liked it. Alright. That'll be done with my poems for now. Let's move on to books. How many of you know about a book called The House with a Clock on Its Walls? It was written by John Bellairs. It's actually part of a series. It was written back in 1973. This is by far one of my favorite books, actually. Now, I love many books, many, but I just want to tell you a little about it, especially since they are going to be making a movie based off of it soon, which I am greatly looking forward to, but at the same time, I'm hoping that Hollywood will not destroy it in the process. It's going to be starring Kate Blanchett and Jack Black now. I know Jack Black doesn't really have a great too many films under his belt. I've seen him act seriously before, so hopefully he'll take this one seriously. Now, Kate Blanchett, I absolutely love her. She's great in any role that she fills. When I saw her in Thor Ragnarok, I really liked her as Hela. She did an excellent job. Um, the House with the Clock on Its Walls is a story about a boy who goes to live with his uncle, and he doesn't realize that his uncle is secretly a warlock, and his neighbor is a witch. And they work together. The house is so called the House with the Clock on Its Walls because many years ago the house had a powerful spell placed upon it with an internal clock inside of its walls, and it constantly ticks. And the uncle used his own clock collection to kind of drown out the sound of the mystic clock ticking in the walls. He has tons of clocks in the book. So by now you're probably realizing why I like the story already. But I do like the tales about witches and warlocks too. They're fascinating when they're done correctly, and this book actually does do it justice. It is a gothic horror novel intended for child readers, but I can assure you that you can enjoy this at any age. Um, I really love this story. Um, it actually does a very good job building up character development and some tension. I'm really wondering how they're going to do the movie. I hope they'll keep the kind of gothic look and vibe to it. I really love that. I love gothic mansions and gothic horror. It's beautiful. Um, Reading more a little bit about the plot to you. The boy, he's known as Louis Barnevelt. After losing his parents, he's sent to Michigan to live with his uncle, and his uncle's name is Jonathan, which we've discussed. He enters the world of magic and sorcery there, but this power is not limited to good people. Louis learns of Isaac Izard, the evil wizard who once wanted to cause an apocalypse, so that he could see what happened afterwards. To do this, he constructed the magical clock with black magic. As long as it still exists, and it will keep ticking, counting down to doomsday. He died before he could finish the clock, but he hid it inside the house, where his uncle now lives. And Louis and Jonathan have to find it before it's actually time's up, and before Selena gets to the clock as well, Isaac's wife. That's pretty much the plot to it, and I'm really hoping that the movie is going to do it justice. Again, mentioning that I'm very picky about cinema, especially today. Movies are just not always as good as they used to be. We've got a few gems out there, but we'll see. All right, and that's my little book recommendation to you. Read The House with a Clock on Its Walls if its content sounds interesting to you. I really hope you will. Alright, I did mention how I wanted to mention some of my own writing. For those who don't know, I have been working on an ongoing series called Power of the Gods. Most of my story, when it first starts, centers around my central character, Sabrina Lamore. Sabrina was born to a wealthy family. She was born with an undeveloped psychokinetic gene. Now, when it first is born within her mind, it splits her psychosis into two personalities. One that is dominant, but yet is completely lacking most compassion for humanity. And this is further damaged along with what happens to her in her life, how people treat her, not only because of what she can do, but because of her psychosis as well. And it makes it worse. Um, Sabrina, on her journey throughout the story, will meet several other people because other people with their own unique abilities and powers of their mind. I do not refer to these people abilities as powers. Some of the characters do, but I personally don't. I actually kind of don't like the term. I prefer their ability because it is an ability of the mind. It's when you're talking about powers, I mostly think about comics or or even gods themselves. The reason I call the series Power of the Gods is because it's these people are human, but they have abilities that are godlike. And Sabrina goes on a long journey to meet others and find others who have abilities like hers because she realizes that she may not be the only one. And she is very much correct in that. The first book of the series is known as Power of the Gods, Book 1, Sabrina L'Amour. And I can read to you a little bit about my series here, too, more than what I've explained. Yeah. While the midnight hour passed, a child was born. A snowstorm blew against the night, announcing the arrival of a girl who gave a small town a piece of dark history. It has been said that among our species there are people born differently. These people can do things that others cannot, and while their abilities are amazing, they are cast aside, they're hidden from the world. Some of them so powerful that time itself cannot resist them, causing a warped and rippling effect that lasts for generations to come. Sabrina Celestine L'Amour was a rare seed. Her parents always knew who and what she was, but they never expected what she'd eventually grow to become. She was born during a time when the world was still new. It wasn't ready to understand. Her mind was stronger than the others, and it was about to be set free. The Power of the Gods is a paranormal thriller supernatural fiction series. The story primarily focuses on a certain groups of people who are born naturally with paranormal abilities in our world of corrupted society and dark intentions of domination. It tells the lives of dramatic events as they all experience, all while faced with the reality of being different from everyone else around them, causing anger, disdain, murder, diabolical madness, and depression and sadness. Each character coming to terms with their own abilities and how they choose to live their lives. The series starts off with the life of the wealthy born Sabrina L'Amour and the most powerful in terms of supernatural energy, being born with an undeveloped form of telekinesis and soon discovering a way to advance her mind into something of a god, increasing her intelligence and lifespan far beyond the average human being. The strain of the world against her humanity and the raw paranormal energy growing in her body causes her psyche to split into two personalities, thus giving her insanity. Thus driving her to insanity. One half of her mind forever as a child longing for friendship and hope, while dominated over a mirror self-image of herself. This personality comes to call herself Clementine. The other personality, as Sabrina, is fueled by madness and determination of destroying all in her path that she deems unworthy to survive. Throughout the story, the plot introduces several other characters of similar outcasts and abilities of their own, causing mayhem from many parts of the world and places of origin, and drawing the lives of the innocents, some devoted to changing them and helping them live normal lives, and others devoting to controlling them, wanting to use them as weapons of mass destruction and power. The name of this series is a metaphor in regards to all the characters' natural-born paranormal abilities while still being human. It is written for both teen and adult readers only for its graphical material. I have the first book out so far. I actually did write two the first two, but I am re-editing and rewriting the second book, and I hope to publish that again soon. And I've also started the third one. Um, the series, the Power of the Gods series, is expected to go about 16 or more books long. It's going to take quite a while, but I'm very passionate about it, and I'm glad that my boyfriend Maya loves it too, and so does my mom. My best friend, one of my best friends, Rachel, she absolutely loves the character of Sabrina, and she is starting to grow a fondness for the other characters in the stories too. Supernatural fiction and paranormal are not the only genres I write. I also really love noir fiction and mystery. I have a few other books upcoming that have that kind of content, and they take place in the past. I also write dark fantasy and horror occasionally, and I also write a little bit of gay romance as well, and sometimes erotica. Now, I will tell you this: some of my stories will feature uh, heavy romantic themes sometimes, um, and some of them won't. Also, each one of my books does have drama in it. I believe personally that drama should be known as the universal genre, and the reason is because drama is found in everything. It's found in all forms of genre and storytelling. You really cannot have a story without some form of drama. And I would love to talk more about my books, I really would, and I will in the future. We're going to get ready to end the episode now, and any questions you have for me, please feel free to leave them in the comments or visit my DeviantArt, dominopunkyheart.deviantart.com. You can leave comments there too, message me. Anything else that you want me to talk about on the show in the future. And that's about it. I will see you next time. I hope you all enjoy your Easter holiday. Take care.